Shalom, ladies, and welcome to our Coffee and Connection week 16. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. And was any who here was on our other call today? The first day of the Open Your Heart Challenge. Moshe and Esther were on, and it was fun. I had fun. I hope you guys had fun. Oh, Javi's here. Javi was on both of them. Awesome. So, anyone who has not yet heard today's training from the challenge, I encourage you to go over to the replay page. If you didn't get that link, if you're not signed up yet, go ahead and register for the challenge, and then you can get access to today's replay. We did a very powerful exercise, and we talked about stepping into your authentic voice by identifying who you want to be, and then figuring out some practical ways of like, what does that look like? Right? We talk often when we talk about being something, women get a little confused, like, well, what does it mean to be what I want to, whatever it is I want to exude? Sometimes we can just step into it. We can just be like, yeah, I'm being authentic. I'm being loving. I'm being real. I'm being connected. And sometimes we get stuck like, okay, I want to be that, but what does it look like? So we also talked about practically how you can know what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, traits, those ideals that you all communication, all ways of authentic living, all femininity stems Sorry about that. I seem to have lost connection for a minute. Okay, so everything that no, it wasn't you, it's definitely me. Not you, it's me. All every Once we can decide, once we can choose, once we can, it's even more identify and recognize who it is we want to be, then everything flows from there, right? And once we focus on our desire, then we can act towards our desire. We can create our desire because we're focusing on our desire instead of focusing on our challenges, our issues. Yes, we need to deal with our issues, but our issues are hurdles. They're not what we want to create. They're the things that are getting in the way of what we want to create. So it's always so powerful to first identify what we want and then work on what's getting in the way. So what I wanted to talk about today, because this is like almost like it's like a bonus. I feel like I'm dealing with the challenge, but I also I didn't want to give up on this time that we have together and on this, the routine of seeing all of you every week. It's amazing. I spoke to somebody this week. I don't have to say who it was, but I spoke to someone this week who I said, "Oh, I feel like I never talked to you." And she's like, "What do you mean? I'm on your call every Monday night. I feel like we're talking every week." And I was like, "That's awesome." So I would love to hear from you any questions that you have on this topic of being, and by extension, any other topic on authenticity and empathy, which is where we're going to be going with this. But any questions you have on this, the idea of being versus doing, or that being in that feminine energy versus that masculine energy, this is really a Q&A call of a Q&A call. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you got stuck on the assignment and on the exercise in any place, So you can go ahead and drop your questions in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them. Okay? So I'll just drink my coffee for a minute while you all connect and write your questions in the chat. Yes, Esther is asking, can you go over what feminine energy is? Okay, so great question. In short, well, there's a few ways that we can classify the difference between feminine energy. And let's first give that, like, disclaimer that feminine energy and masculine energy are not for women and men, only. It's not like women are all feminine energy and men are all masculine energy, right? That probably, if you had a woman that was fully feminine energy, she probably would not be functional, and not would a man who was completely masculine energy, right? We're all on a spectrum. We all have some femininity and some masculinity to us. And as women, especially in our relationships, when we're specifically connecting with our husbands, it's very powerful to be in our feminine energy. So, what is the feminine energy? Two main ways of understanding feminine as opposed to masculine is that feminine is more about the being, while masculine is more about the doing. Okay, so the masculine energy, you're in your masculine energy when you're like check, 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 right? Kind of basically like we are at work, like we are with the kids, like we are with the household. Check, 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 check. I need to get all this stuff done. I need to write it all down. I need to put check marks next to it. It's great. And we can use that masculine energy to deal with stress and deal with getting things done for sure. But when we're with our husbands, that's where we can step into that feminine energy, which is more about being. And being is more about flowing, it's more about letting go of the to dos and focusing on the experience. Okay, so practically, what's the difference? um, if you've ever gone on a date with your husband, okay, so a date in the doing is about, we should go here, you should park there, we should eat this, don't eat that. Now where are we going, what time are we going to be back, what should I tell, like very, like you're bringing a energy in where like you have to know what's going on, you have to be somewhat in control. There's like this energy of, you know I need to know exactly, like this energy of like, what are we accomplishing on this date, right? What are we going to talk about? What kind of what are we gonna what's gonna come out of it at the end of this? What are we gonna have eaten? How much money are we going to have spent? What kind of how much are we going to pay the babysitter? It's like a very focus on the details, okay? Whereas focusing on the being is focusing on the experience. Who do I want to be on the date? Can I kind of let go of the details, let my husband take care of the details, and see where it goes? I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to experience. Let's go on the date and see what the experience creates between us, right? And this brings us into the other difference between masculine and feminine energy, which is that the masculine energy is more about giving, whereas feminine energy is about receiving. Okay, now receiving is not taking or entitlement, it's very different. Receiving is being open to what is given, while letting go of expectations and control of what it looks like. So you're basically, in both of these cases, you're kind of letting go of controlling the experience, right? Sometimes we need to be in control. That's our masculine side. And more experiencing, being open to the experience, being open to the kind of using the potential, finding the potential that the moment brings, right? If you think about in our bodies, what's the difference between masculine and feminine? A man's got to get stuff done, He's got to get those things going. He's got to get that sperm going. He's got to get the babies being made, right? Like quick, 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 fast, fast, fast. Everything's got to happen. Whereas women, we take our time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Even when we have a baby, we nurture that baby for 9 months and then we give birth to it and we nurse it and we take care of it. It's a slow, we take something small and we create a whole experience around it, right? It's not a checklist. It's not like, check, I had a baby, let's have another one and another one, right? It's an experience that we use we receive it and we create something with it. So our feminine energy is when we're looking, that's why empathy is feminine, because in when you take empathy into the picture, you're sitting with someone, let's say in that moment that you have to shift into your feminine energy, let's say with your kids. So check, 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 I'm doing the laundry, I folded it, I washed the dishes, I unloaded the dishwasher, I did they do their homework? And then it's like your kid's like, Ema, can I talk to you about something? Or Ema, I'm really upset. And like now you have to shift into the feminine. And when you shift into the feminine, you're sitting and they're talking to you, but you're not just like, listen, respond. It's like, let me take in the whole picture. Let me receive everything that this child is telling me, with everything I know about this child and everything that I can understand a child goes through. And let me create an experience around this where I'm not just hearing the child, but I'm creating an experience where the child feels cared for and loved and respected. And that is that's a lot. We can use all of those ideas of the empathy and the receiving and the being, and use it to create an experience, create an environment. We're creating, right? That's how we create our bite, we create our home. Okay, Esther, did that clarify things for you? Awesome. Okay. Okay, so here we have another question. How does one figure out what she wants? Meaning, how do I envision a relationship I would want when there's so much history of unhealthy relationships? How does one work past the apathy of not caring anymore? This is an excellent, excellent question. So, on the one hand, I will say, and I'm going to do a little teaser here, that tomorrow we are definitely going to be focusing on getting in touch with, what do I want? What if I don't know what I want? And you're asking a very good question here of, how do I, figure out what I want when I've been hurt so much in the past and all I can envision, because all I've known are unhealthy relationships. And you know what? I'm thinking now, why don't we use the same idea? I don't know if you were on the call this morning, this afternoon, depends on where you are in the world. But the call that we did earlier, the exercise was about using people that we look up to help us understand who we want to be, and not just who we want to be, but who we already are. So, what I'm going to invite you to do, anyone who's struggling with this question, I don't know what kind of relationship I want to have, maybe because I've never experienced a good relationship, or my relationship is so stuck and I've so given up that I don't even know what could be possible. To do two things. One is, think about the relationships that you have looked up to in the past. The relationships that you've thought, there's something in that relationship that speaks to me. Now, we do have to be careful, because we have to remember, just like we talked about with the women we look up to, no relationship is perfect either. So if you're looking up to a relationship you saw on TV where everything was roses and butterflies, or if you're looking up to a relationship that you saw in real life and all you saw was love and connection, and remember that they don't have it perfect either, right? And there's still something that you are seeing in that relationship that's speaking to you. What is speaking to you in that relationship? What is something that you're like, wow, I wish I had this aspect in my relationship? Okay. Now, what you also can do, And this is where I'm really standing for you. The fact that you're here right now tells me that you have not completely given up yet. Because if you'd given up, you wouldn't be here. You're here because something that I've said or something that you read made you think like, I want that. That's something I want. So what was it? What was it that drew you in? What was it that made you? There's certain things that I talk about. There's certain things that other women talk about as ideals and things that you could, aspire to. What is it that I or somebody else has, you know, talked about or discussed that your part something in your heart went, I want that. That is what I want. And when that voice in your head, it sounds like there's this voice in your head that might be saying, you can't have that, or that's not possible. Let me know if there's some voice. What is that voice that comes in and says, you know, you can't, like, it's not, don't even think about that, right? What is that voice? We all have these little voices that whisper because of the experiences we've had until now. We believe whatever our brain tells us. And our brain is telling us what we've learned through all our experiences from the time we were babies up until this moment. And so when you have this belief, like, I can't, it's not possible, I'm hopeless, I'm helpless, then there's some voice whispering in your ear telling you that. And you get to choose if you are going to continue to believe that voice or not. And if you would not listen to that voice, I'm going to invite you to do a very powerful, use this exercise in today's exercise from the challenge. If you didn't listen to that voice, what would you believe? Who would you be? What would you be creating if you were not listening to that voice? Almost like, what's the opposite of that voice? If that voice is telling you, I'm not seeing a response here, so I'll just have to make some up and use some examples. If the voice is telling you, you can't have love, then you get to decide if you're going to believe that voice. And if you no longer want to believe that voice, then you can choose to be loving, to believe that you are loved and give that forward, that you are worthy of love, and switch that around and say, I am being loving. If that voice is telling you, you don't deserve to be happy, you can never be happy, you'll never be happy, then you can choose to be happy. You can choose to be joyful. If that voice is telling you, what is the point? Yeah. Oh my gosh, you took the words right out of my mouth. So thank you. The response I just got is the voice says that relationships are not worth it. Relationships are not worth it. And that is a voice that so many women have, so many of us believe, because we've seen that we put in effort and more effort and we try. And as I said today on the call, you wake up every morning telling yourself, today I'm going to be perfect. Today everything is going to be okay. And we can't sustain it, right? We can't sustain it. So then we think, it's not worth it. It's not worth all my energy. It's not worth my time. And the reality is that if a relationship was not worth it, you wouldn't be sitting here right now, right? It's worth this time. And if you can't do it for your relationship because you've been hurt too much, do it for your relationship with yourself. Who do you want to be to yourself? That's enough to shift your focus. If you can't be something for him because you feel you've been hurt too many times, then focus on who do I want to be for me. And if over and over again you've had that experience that relationships are not worth it, I invite you to consider that that belief did not start with your husband. It most likely started way before that. And then when we believe something, we see it, we find evidence for it. It's true. The question is that the truth that you want to be focused on? So if you decide, wait a second, is it true that relationships aren't worth it? Well, I'm putting in this time right now. I want something different. Maybe relationships are worth it. And if it was worth it, if relationships are worth it, if you can get to a place that you feel the relationship is worth that, what would it be worth? How do you shift it? We're shifting it right now. Okay. And it's definitely a process, but we're starting the process. Okay. If your relationship, let's put it this way, what kind of relationship would be worth it? What if you saw it and felt it and heard it and experienced it in your relationship would make your relationship worth it? What would that be? And I am going to wait for the response because this, I know you're here. So she's writing to me privately, but it's here. And take your time if you have to think about it. What would make a relationship worth it? What would you have to see, experience, feel to let go of that limiting belief, because that's what it is, that relationship aren't worth it. So you're saying that's the part that's hard to figure out. Okay. So what is it? Let's look at the opposite. Let's look at it the opposite way. What are you experiencing specifically in the relationship that makes it feel that it's not worth it? What is the biggest pain point that makes you say, I don't know why I bother? What is that? Whenever we get stuck in any question, we can always flip it around. We can always say, wait, if I'm stuck on recognizing what's difficult, maybe I can look at what I want. If I'm stuck in seeing what I want, I can look at what's difficult. So here we have the answer: feeling unheard, unseen, and needs unmet. Perfect. Perfect in the sense that this is how I can help you. When you think of feeling unheard, unseen, and your needs are not met, how does that make you, and understanding you feel unheard, go a step deeper? When you feel unheard, unseen, and your needs are not met, what is the emotion that that brings up in you? The emotion, or the, what do they all have in common? How they all make you feel? I'm just waiting for our messenger, our messenger. I don't know, a woman who's messaging. Sadness and loneliness. Okay. So you feel sad and you feel lonely because there's something missing, right? When you feel unheard, unseen, and that your needs are not met, then you start to feel sad and lonely. So, what's like, it means that something is missing in your relationship. And I invite all of you to do this exercise along anything that you're feeling the same way. Do it alongside our private messenger here so that you can experience the coaching with her. So when you're feeling sad and lonely, what is it that you feel you're not, what's missing for you? So I'm getting some other answers here, like it's not worth it and taken advantage of. So yes, now here's the thing, okay? Sadness and loneliness is a very powerful emotion. It's a very powerful emotion that can definitely, thank you. Elisa's, sorry. Well, there's a million of every name. I apologize. There's a million of every name, right? That's what we said today in our thing when you comment, right? So, so what is being missing is connection and being taken into consideration. Beautiful. Beautiful in the sense that you're getting to your feelings. Okay? So, how can you flip that around? If what's missing and what's hurting you so much, and this is so much what we're talking about today, this is one thing that didn't come up on our call today, but it's so powerful. When you, and this is what I call like the mirror work, when we look at what we're experiencing that's causing us so much pain, what that tells us so clearly is what we believe is out of integrity, is not okay, right? If I'm not being taken into consideration and that's hurting me so much, then I believe that it's important to take people into consideration. And if what I'm missing is connection, then it must be that connection is extremely important to me. If it's hurting me so much to not have connection. So here's what I'm going to invite you to do. What that means is that what's missing for you is exactly that. You're missing connection. You're missing being taken into consideration. What you can choose to be, what you can step into, is the opposite of that. How would it feel for you to say, I am going to be, forget about for him, because it doesn't feel worth it right now for my relationship, but for you, for your own feeling of integrity, for your own feeling of authenticity, what would it feel like for you to be connecting and what we would say taking people into consideration is very much about respect, respecting other people, that other people have their own needs and their own desires and their own feelings. What would it be like for you to say, I am going to be connecting and respectful of others' needs? I'm going to hear other people. I'm going to be someone that respects myself and respects others. So I feel heard and I allow other people to be heard. I see myself. I meet my needs. Even if you do it just for yourself, if you step into for the next 5 days, hearing yourself, connecting to yourself, seeing yourself, meeting your needs, taking yourself into consideration, what would that be like? What would that do for you? How would you feel? Just so you're saying I've learned to see myself and meet my needs. So now perhaps if that you've already done that, now you can look at how can I be that for others as well? Not from a place of pleasing them or from a place of doing it so that they don't get angry, but doing it because that's who I want to be and that's the kind of relationship I want to have. Okay. Now, there may, again, that part in your brain, that voice in your brain that says, let me just go back to that, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to do that for someone else because they're not going to receive it or they're just going to belittle it. Don't do it for them. Don't do it for the relationship. Just tell that voice in your head, I'm doing it because this is who I want to be. And this is who I want to be in the relationship. This is who I want to be in my home and in my world. It's about me. And it may seem funny, aren't we all about connection here? We can't connect to others if we feel like, first of all, we're not connected to ourselves. And part of connecting to ourselves is making sure that we're acting in the world based on our own integrity, our own authentic beliefs about who we're meant to be, who we want to be. Oh my gosh, I just noticed the time. It is so fun coaching you guys. I don't want this to stop. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I'd love if anyone wants to post, if you've got a takeaway, if you want to go further into this, just go ahead. The woman who's messaging here, and thank you for allowing everyone to be coached alongside you. You can go ahead and send me an email, and we'll set up a time to talk about it further and make sure that you have full clarity on who you want to be, how you want to show up in your relationship, what it is that you want, so you can step into creating it. Because the longer you believe that your relationship is not worth it, the more you will be finding evidence for that and creating it in your own actions. And I don't know if you were on today's call, but I would invite you to go to the replay page and listen to the replay today, because we did talk a lot about this topic. And again, if you need any more support, go ahead and send me an email. Okay, so thank you I'm getting some private positive messages here. Let me just see if there's any women. You guys were all posting great comments and your own ways of connecting to the coaching, and I acknowledge you for doing it alongside our esteemed lady, our esteemed woman who joined us. So thank you, all of you. And what I really am going to invite you to do as you do the exercise, as you really step into who do I want to be, is give yourself permission to be you. And being you means both, as we talked about, both seeing our lofty goals while also putting them together with who we are. Part of finding our authentic voice is realizing that we can only be who we are. Now, we talked about how, those things those higher goals that we want to achieve, they're already inside of us. That's why we see them. But we also have to recognize that we are not perfect and we cannot expect perfection of ourselves, right? Just go back to our call we did on perfection a few weeks ago. So as you step into who you want to be, allow your authentic voice to come out. Allow yourself to say, this is who I want to be, with that vision of those you connect with, to help you make sure that you're aspiring to your potential and not getting stuck in your stories and in your limiting beliefs. Okay. Here we have a question. What if the relationship I enjoy is not how he wants to relate? The love languages thing. That's a great question. Part of integrity and authenticity is being able, and this is really the two pieces here that we're going to be focusing on so much, finding my authentic voice and making sure that I know how to ask for and be able to receive the love that I want, while also being able to give to myself what others can't give me, because nobody can ever love me exactly the way I want to be loved. I also can love myself, and learning his love language as well, right? Almost every marriage, I'm just going to say every marriage because that just seems to be the way it is. we all, even if we have the same love language, we're going to speak different dialects of that love language, right? So, what's important to remember is that the love I want is going to be different than your love. The connection I look for is going to be different than the connection you look for. That's a relationship, right? That's every marriage. And that's why it's so important to be authentic and respectful, to be confident and respectful, right? Confident and empathetic. Um, we always have vulnerable and I'm always saying to my clients, be vulnerable and respectful. Say it vulnerably and respectfully, right? Because and that's what we hope to see mirror back as well, because we are different. Different doesn't make it wrong, but in that difference, it's important for both of us to feel that we can be ourselves, right? Because that's who we signed up to be with, right? I signed up to be with you. You signed up to be with me. I want you to be you, and you want me to be me. So losing ourselves, either because we want to please him or because we get busy and stressed and we lose sight of who we are, is not going to allow us to have that connection that we really want. So that's why figuring out our authentic voice and being that woman is so powerful. So thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you for your questions. I'm excited to see you all tomorrow on the challenge. We will have Coffee and Connection again next week, Be'ezrat Hashem. I enjoyed this little, our the Q&A of the Q&A call. And until we speak next time, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.